Aha, we're live. Yay. Thanks. Hi, guys. So, we have our Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi, Mark Zickery Space Command. So, we'll just start talking and see where it all leads, and hopefully it'll lead somewhere cool. So, as you know, we have our campaign going, our campaign to fund post production on Space Command Forgiveness. And it was suggested to me that I do a regular live stream throughout the campaign so that our fans can ask questions and that'll help boost the funds going into the campaign. Right now, we're off to a reasonable start, but I'd very much like to hit 20 grand in the next day or two because that'll be proportionately one that will allow us to get to 60,000 by the end of the campaign. Hello, Momodo. I see that you're on the live stream. That's great. It's good to see you. And as I said a moment ago, if anyone has questions as we continue, I'm going to be doing these every other day, every few days. So keep an eye out. I'll be regularly announcing when I do it. I thought it would be very fun to have like an ongoing conversation with the fans. I can tell you sort of where Space Command is right now. It's going along extremely well. We finished shooting all of the actor scenes in Forgiveness. We have some CG stuff to do with the creature. We shot a practical creature as well on the alien spaceship, and so we're in active post production now on that 2 hour episode. And we're getting ready the production draft of Great Solar War, which is the next 2 hour episode that we're going right into. And then after that, we'll shoot Empire, and then after that, Harvester, and that finishes out the season of Space Command. So very exciting and busy, and lots of other stuff going on as well. So now behind me, eventually I'm going to do a Mr. Sci-Fi on my wall because I have all this really cool stuff on this wall, signed photos, signed letters, really cool artwork like that Ricardo Montalban Wrath of Khan behind me, and that cool alien poster. Thank you, Napoleon Wilson. I appreciate that you love the work. And again, I'm trying to guide people to our Kickstarter campaign. Just under this video, there's a little link to our Kickstarter campaign. You'll actually be able to get. Uh, I'm actually trying to get the entire 6 hours completed. First half of season one completed and sent out to all of you guys. So that Kickstarter campaign will speed the plow. So if you can do that, that'd be terrific. Also, I'll be doing these live streams fairly regularly through the month, and you can ask questions. I see that Just Your Average Canadian said, "Is it true you're the new showrunner for the upcoming Twilight Zone reboot?" No, that's not true. But there is sort of it's true adjacent because I'm doing something called the Showrunners Network. That's a slate of 6 new science fiction shows. It's Space Command, Sweet Haven that I'm co-creating with Rockney O'Bannon, who created Farscape and Defiance and Alienation and Sequest, and is the executive producer on Evil on CBS, and Fugitive Space with Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby, who created and ran The Expanse, and Magic Time, which is a project that I've based on the trilogy of novels I did, and Rod Serling's After Twilight, which I'm talking to the Serling family about now, which is it would be a new series. They thought that Rod used to dictate all of his scripts and speeches and letters into a recorder, and it was thought that those recordings were lost, and then they found 1,000 of them, and so I want to do a series where Rod narrates the show from those recordings because his style was very specific to him, and the letters, the speeches that he dictated, all the etc. It has many wonderful commentaries by him about life and so forth. And then we would also shoot scripts that he wrote that were never made, fantasy, science fiction, horror, as well as scripts that he wrote in the 50s that haven't been seen since the days of live TV. We would also be shooting scripts by other Twilight Zone writers, George Clayton Johnson, Richard Matheson, Charles Beaumont, etc., unmade scripts, and then also scripts by today's great science fiction and fantasy and horror writers. So we'll see if that comes to fruition, but it would be very, very, very cool. Rod Serling's After Twilight. So I've drawn up the whole proposal for it, and it's really cool. So beyond, and for those who don't know, sometimes people come to Mr. Sci-Fi and they don't really know my 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 resume. Uh, for the some of you do. I mean, essentially I grew up watching Star Trek, Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, the original versions. Got to have a trip to the Star Trek set. Got to meet Nichelle Nichols when I was like a kid, when I was 10. Read the making of Star Trek. A couple of years after that, decided I wanted to become a science fiction showrunner. Then sold my first short story at 19. Aired my first science fiction radio play at 18, which is on Mr. Sci-Fi. It's called Lobotomy, so you can listen to all of it. And then started writing the Twilight Zone companion right out of college when I was 21, and started writing for TV when I was 22 or 23. Wrote for Smurfs, He-Man, Super Friends, Real Ghostbusters, on and on and on and on and on, He-Man, and then jumped over to live action where I developed Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future, and wrote some episodes of that, and then story edited Friday the 13th, the series, and then rose up to producer, produced Sliders, was writing for a lot of different shows: Star Trek Next Gen, DS9, Babylon 5, Forever Night, Lazarus Man, many, 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 Space Precinct. And so I worked for all the major studios and networks for decades. Then wrote the Magic Time trilogy based on a pilot Elaine and I wrote, where all the machines in the world stop running and magic comes back. And uh, and then did this Kickstarter campaign stuff and selling investment shares. And between selling investment shares for $7,500 and having Kickstarter campaigns, I was able to raise $4 million to open my own studio and shoot Space Command and all the other projects that we have waiting in the wings. So that's been the journey. So it's really, really wonderful. I mean, I have three stages, two small and one large, filled with alien spaceship sets and giant robots and 8 foot tall aliens and spacesuits and everything. And so basically, what I'm going to be doing over these live streams that I'm doing this month to help raise money for the Kickstarter campaign is I'll be here, and I'll probably do it around noon, because then people on the East Coast and people in England and so forth can. It's at a time that people can really log on and answer questions. And thanks for the kind words, everybody. It's neat that I've written for so many things that people really love and have enjoyed. But I'm happy to answer any questions about any of that stuff. And please go to the Kickstarter campaign. We're up to about $11,500 and change. I'd love to hit 20,000 the next day or two. We've got amazing perks, including walk-on roles, producer credits, miniature figures of me. You can get a figure of me. You can get a figure of Ethan McDowell, Captain Jack Kemmer, a Space Command. Cool stuff. The models of the Paladin, our spaceship. It's really great stuff. Tell your friends, by the way, because I'll be here every other day or so, talking for a few minutes, and it'll be very, very fun. And I can tell you stories about some of the shows I worked on and some of the things I found that no one had ever uncovered before. For instance, when I was doing the Twilight Zone companion, I discovered that when he was around 33 years old, Charles Beaumont, one of the great writers of Twilight Zone, started experiencing the first symptoms of the debilitating brain disease that would kill him at age 38. And it was basically presenile dementia. There's different theories as to what it was, but he could still get assignments, but he couldn't really write anymore. He didn't have that capability. So his friends started ghostwriting for him. So after the episode Miniature, one of the hour-long fourth season Twilight Zone episodes, um, uh, all of the episodes after that were ghostwritten by Beaumont's friends. So, for instance, Talkie Tina, the episode Living Doll, with Talkie Tina, I'm going to kill you. That was actually plotted by Beaumont and his friend Jerry Soule, and ghostwritten in its entirety by Jerry Soule. So and I was the first person that had ever discovered that, to where I could reveal it to the public, because enough years had gone by that people would talk about it. And so, amazing stuff. So, now let me answer some of these questions. When did escapism become a dirty word? It's not a dirty word. I mean, there's, to me at least, it's, when I was a kid, my parents divorced when I was 3, and I longed to escape. And the farthest I could escape to was space. And that was just when the space program was starting up. That's when you had things like Lost in Space and all these cool shows. Twilight Zone was airing in syndication, and Star Trek was about to start up when I was 10. So escape provided me an escape hatch, and it provided me a place where I could daydream and live out my fantasies. and it was a lifesaver. So no, I don't look down on that, and and I don't think of that negativity around that as escape, as a woke or any political stripe. I think there's a difference between escapism, if it's done with passion, with a true heart from the creators, versus just empty cliche crap. And so I think that we can differentiate those two. So you might say Star Wars is escapism, but all those ripoffs of Star Wars that were really terrible movies wasn't of the same value, let us say. So thank you for saying the con looks impressive over my right shoulder. I went to Star Trek Las Vegas, the big convention, a couple months ago, and there was an artist selling her paintings, and one of them was that con, and I just loved it. I thought it was terrific. Um, and let's see. The Ivan P says we met at Marie Callender's 9 years ago. You and I. You've been an inspiration ever since. What they're talking about is the roundtable I run of writers, directors, actors, producers. It's both on. It's live and on via Zoom now every Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. If you're interested, just shoot me an email at markzickery@gmail.com and I can send you a link. But we've been running it for 30 years, every Thursday, to create a compassionate entertainment industry, and we have thousands of members around the world now, so it's really cool. And then Napoleon Wilson says, I rewatched the history of sci-fi at Christmas. Um, yeah, I've been logging. I've been doing a history of science fiction, sort of hit and miss every now and then as time allows. And so I did the history of books, and I'll do an update on that soon because I'm reading some of the more recent books that have come out. And then, but also now I'm doing the history of science fiction film, and I've gotten up to the 21st century now. So I'll do the last 23 years, and then I'll move on to the history of radio and TV, science fiction, and then the history of comics and graphic novels, and that'll and then probably what we'll do is we'll package it as a box set or something downloadable, content, and kind of spiff it up a little with illustrations, and then that'll be really fun because the reason I wanted to do my own history of science fiction was, again, because when I was a kid, I noticed that my heroes uh, were writing the writers were always my heroes. It was never. I didn't really particularly want to hang with Leonard Nimoy, but Jesus, hanging with Harlan Ellison, that was meaningful to me. And I noticed that the writers who were writing for Twilight Zone, Star Trek, Outer Limits when I was a kid were the same writers writing the books I was reading: Ray Bradbury, Theodore Sturgeon, Harlan Ellison, Richard Matheson, Charles Beaumont. And so as soon as I was old enough, I'd start going to science fiction conventions and meet them. And they became friends and mentors. And in many cases, they would tell me stories that had never been in print, stories about their lives or stories about experiences they had had, or how they wrote the episodes they wrote. For instance, Ted Sturgeon wrote two great episodes of Star Trek, Amok Time and uh, Shore Leave. And he told me about Amok Time, that when he watched the rough cut of it, or the version that was going to air, they had taken out the one line that has been his whole reason for writing it. And he said, I never pulled rank as a writer ever, but this is one time when I did. And I said, you have to put that back in. And that was the line where Spock says to the other Vulcan who wins the hand of the girl, you may find that having is not nearly as sweet as wanting, or whatever the line is. And but I never saw that recounted in print. But Ted told it to me directly. He was a very dear friend and mentor. He came to my wedding, and my photo of him that I took when I was like 19 or 20 appears on two of his books, so as his author's photo. So let's see. Yeah, and again, remember to go to our Kickstarter campaign, throw money our way, and if you want to buy shares in Space Command, they're $7,500 each. You'll get a portion of my producer's net profits on the first four episodes. Then we're now offering the second shares on the second four episodes, and then we'll have the final third offering on the last three episodes of season one. And I can talk about what's in the works now, but I would strongly urge you to get shares if you've been interested, because now, immediately, because things are in the works that could be extremely good. So So Rich Schwartz says, I consider it an honor to get to know the person behind so many of my favorite shows. Thank you for being such a down-to-earth person. I'm definitely a big fan. Well, thank you. Um, I think, I wrote a book recently called Greenlighting Yourself that sort of shares how I do all this stuff. And one of the things I said is that I think the key to success as an artist is a mix of humility and confidence. Humility allows you to learn ongoingly, and confidence allows you to get where you're going. But unfortunately, many people stop being humble and think they know everything, and so they're not able to learn ongoingly and grow, and they mistake arrogance for confidence, and those are two very, very, very different things. So I remember Ray Bradbury, when we became friends, and he was, I'd go over once a month and just sit with him and we talk about life and art and business and all that stuff. He said, you're very confident. You're like me. He said, you really believe in yourself, and I don't think I'm in the same category as Ray Bradbury. He was one of the greats, but that observation I think was true. I'm very, very driven. Um, Let's see, Destiny Captain. I recently sent a message to your Gmail. Resend it, please. If I didn't answer, it wasn't deliberate. It's just that I get so much email, and it's been very, very nutty lately. So I'll try to respond. And thanks for reaching out. I really like when people reach out to me. Um, yeah, the Alien 3 and Daily talking about my recommendations. Read the Alien story we should have got. Yeah, for those who don't know what that's about, William Gibson, the famous author of Neuromancer, uh, he was hired to write the script for Alien 3. It's a totally different story from the movie that got made, much better than that story, and it's all about a station that gets overrun by aliens, and it's just really cool. It's great. And so for one of the recent anniversaries of Alien, they did an audio drama of it, and they also did a comic book, and a fan combined the two into an animatic, just like we're doing with our Space Command prequel. And I believe I posted it here on Mr. Sci-Fi. Uh, if you do a little search in Mr. Sci-Fi, you'll probably find it. But it was quite wonderful, and I actually re-listen to it often. It's very, very fun. Um, let's see, Kevin Scott. Yeah, Kevin, you're yeah, we're not doing the live stream on the table via Mr. Sci-Fi, as we did during the pandemic, just because it became one thing too many, unfortunately. But I should really, go back to considering that and think about it, and maybe we'll resume that at some point, because it was a lot of fun. But so and yes, 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 Destiny Captain, this the alien salvage suit. Yes, 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 yes. Please email me again. I actually went to the studio and I photographed that logo. There's a logo on the chest and there's a logo on the sleeve. I can actually pull this up right now. Hold on a sec. Let me get to my photos. We will do that. Let's see. I have the salvage suit from the beginning of Aliens, which is actually originally used in the movie Outland, and then they retooled it for Aliens. That's where they, go into Ripley's escape pod and they say, "Oh, she's alive. There goes our salvage guys." Let me see where my photos are. Here they are, and it is right here. This is there you go. Let me move it here and angle it here. There it is. That's what it looks like, but it's a square. It's it's a little angled here, and then the one on the arm looks like that. I didn't get all of it in the photo because it was up against the wall, but that gives you an idea. But email me and I'll send those to you. So but thanks for reminding me. Um, we have about, I think, 30 spacesuits now. Because what I do is I just gather, when I have an opportunity to buy a spacesuit or a spaceship console, or anything that we can reutilize for Space Command, I do so, and it's super fun. It's difficult because there are certain things I can't afford; they're just too expensive. For instance, the bridge from Prometheus was up for auction about a year or two ago, and could not do that. But we have stuff from all sorts of great movies and great TV shows, and the spacesuit collection. We're now setting up Studio 2 to be sort of a museum where all the spaceship consoles will be able to light up with screens actively going. By the way, if anyone likes to design like data screens or graphic screens for spaceship command consoles, it has to be free and clear, where there's no rights issues. But if you'd like them to be in Space Command, please contact me because I'm very interested in doing that. And then the spacesuits are from everything from the Twilight Zone Death Ship to Outer Limits to Jerry Lewis movie called Way Way Out to oh gosh, on and on. I mean, Aliens, Outland, Pluto Nash. I just reunited the suit with the helmet. They were in two different collections, and I was able to get both of them, put them together, and uh, and so forth. So, really, really fun stuff. And it's just I just love this stuff. And it's funny. I recently had my high school reunion, 50th high school reunion. Oh yeah, and the Nutty Professor. Yeah, so I have two spacesuits from two different movies, worn by Eddie Murphy. So that's pretty crazy. Um, but um, I recently went to my 50th high school reunion, and pardon me, eating. It's lunchtime here. And the next day was my elementary school reunion, and lots of these kids. I knew all of them, and I hadn't seen many of them for like 50 years or more. And one of them reminded me, and or at least commented on the fact I actually remembered this, that when I was 8, my stepfather built me my own spaceship. It was about it was like it looked like a wooden crate with a door on hinges, and probably about the size a little bigger than a coffin, interestingly enough. But he gotten all these Air Force surplus parts like control panels and so forth. And he had a row of lights that you could turn on with switches and a little telegraph key and a picture of Earth cut off a record album that you could see out of a porthole. And it was terrific. And I would give kids tours of the solar system in my spaceship. And when and so two of these kids I went to elementary school with came to my studio and saw my spaceship sets, and they said, "You haven't changed a bit." They said, "You have followed a vision, and you have absolutely fulfilled that vision." So that was really very meaningful. And in fact, one of the kids I went to elementary school with, he actually appears in Space Command as one of the kidnapped pilgrims in Forgiveness. So that was really fun. Out my friend Alan Favish, and we actually went to all the same schools. We went to Shenandoah Elementary School, Louis Pasteur Junior High, Hamilton High School, and then UCLA. And he's a lawyer, and I am what I am. So pretty remarkable. So, but it's just so fascinating that as you get older, you can maintain your youthfulness via holding on to your passions and not, Ray Bradbury told me a great story. When he was a kid, he was collecting the Buck Rogers newspaper strips. It was back in the I guess 1920s, late 1920s, early 30s, and he and some other kids laughed at him for doing that, and he threw them out. And then he burst into tears because he realized he had destroyed something that he loved. And years later, he was telling that story in Big Bear, and someone came up after and said, "I did the same thing when I was a kid, and I'll give you the strips that you lost." And he gave them to Ray. But Ray said, "Never let go of anything that you love. Never get rid of anything. Don't let other people's opinions sway you. Love what you love with total commitment, total passion, and never be embarrassed about that." So he was really a great mentor. Um, let's see, what age am I on the inside? 10. Ray, when he was in his like late 80s, he said, "I have a secret to tell you, Ray Bradbury," and he motioned me forward, and he leaned forward, and I leaned forward, and he whispered to me, "I'm 13 years old," and he was. It was true. It was true, and so. It's great. It's great. And I mean, it's funny because you have to be a mixture of kid and adult. And you don't want to be childish, but you do want to be childlike. And where the kid needs to be nurtured is everything you love, all of your passions, all of the things that still fill that place in your heart. The gosh gee whiz, I mean all of it. What my tastes are. But where the adult comes in is the realization of a vision, the realization of how do I make this exist in the real world? Because the whole job that I do is take something in my head and in my heart and share it with the world so everyone can see it. And because my art form is television, it's an expensive art form. I can't just buy a canvas and paint. I can't just write words on a page and have them published. What I do costs millions of dollars. Hence the Kickstarter campaign. Please throw money our way. Spread the word. Tell your friends. But it's very important to have something that thrills you and gives your life a reason to exist. And that doesn't have to be necessarily, you don't have to be an artist. I mean, for some people it's their kids, for some people it's their spouse. You know, it can be anything as long as it adds to the world in a positive and creative way. I've known some parents who are incredibly creative in how they raise their kids. I mean, in a good way. My mom was one of them, as I think you can tell whenever I talk about her. This October 21st would have been her 100th birthday. So Elaine and I are going to go out to dinner and raise a toast to my dear mother. And I wrote a book about her, by the way. I'm going to be publishing that soon too. It's called Love Gloria. So keep an eye out for that. Let's see. Thomas Cassie Lester says, I've just finished the 9-hour journey into space, World in Peril. Make sure you also listen to the first two. Operation Luna and Red Planet. They're both on Mr. Sci-Fi, and they're terrific. Journey into Space is one of the great unheralded classics of science fiction. It's a terrific, terrific series of radio plays, and I was able, fortunately, to get the comic, the graphic novel as well, and that I'll be sharing with you in the near future. Let's see. Would you ever be tempted? Arthur Trim says, would you ever be tempted to be immortalized as an AI version, avatar, artificial consciousness, interactive android, or program of yourself? Well, I'm already a CG avatar, so you can at the Kickstarter campaign you can actually get a miniature figurine of me because I was scanned, and you can dress it up in all of Barbie's ensemble or whatever you care to do with it. And but here's the challenge with having your entire heart and soul and brain uh, downloaded into a computer. It won't be you. It'll be a copy of you. It's just like a photo is a photo of you. It's not you. What you'd really need to do, if you wanted to live longer, is you'd have to have your brain kept alive, and then it could be put in an artificial body or whatever, but or connected to the internet, or etc. Because the you that is you, I personally believe, is this physiological version. And so a clone is a different person. An AI would be a different person. So, I mean, in Space Command, I had the grizzled space jockey in Redemption, which is the character I play, and I wrote a short story about that character. And then at the end, he gets cloned, and in Forgiveness, I play the third generation clone of that character, and the clone's name is I call him Captain Bob Heinlein after Robert A. Heinlein, and he's. I'm going to be writing a short story about him. He appear where it'll be called Captain Bob. So let's see what else. And for those who came late to the party, we have a Kickstarter campaign going. There's a link to it down below. Please click on it. Please throw some money our way. I would really love to hit $20,000 today or tomorrow. We're at 11,500. If we can hit $20,000 by today or tomorrow, that means we'll have a good shot at the 60,000 by the end of the campaign. So I don't want to have to pull the plug on this campaign. This money will be used to finish Forgiveness, the one we just shot. And I'm going to be doing these live streams every few days, and so I'll announce it on my feed and all of that stuff on social media. Let's see, I'm getting behind in answering the questions. Neuromancer is stunningly brilliant, says the Ivan P. I'd rather a visionary take hold of these SFIPs than what the big streamers are churning out these days. These novels are too beautiful to be a run of the mill. I agree 100%, and I think that most of the science fiction shows that we have now they're often beautifully produced. They have wonderfully talented actors. They have gorgeous costumes and sets and visual effects. And then they just don't have characters that you can care about or follow, or you know who they are. I mean, I've had that problem with all these recent Star Trek series, even Strange New Worlds. I've tried so hard to watch that and love it. I mean, if they had just done the show that Roddenberry had intended, I think it's cluttered with too many characters. And it's like, who are these people? Why should I care about number one? Why should I care about, and also even Pike? It's like, well, you know, he seems to be very, very different from episode to episode, and not dominant in the show. I mean, I just am endlessly frustrated by these things, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing Space Command, because I can tell a story that actually works. But yes, at one point, Ray Bradbury and I found out that he'd written 22 Mars stories that weren't in the Martian Chronicles, but followed the same chronology. And I said, well, can I take those and adapt them into a miniseries? And he said, yes. So I actually outlined an 8-hour miniseries called Ray Bradbury's Lost Mars. And my friend Michael Mencken, who was one of the great directors on Battlestar Galactica, he and I were going to team up and produce it. I was going to write it. He was going to direct it. And we took it out, and we couldn't sell it. And this is back when Ray was still with us, and it's really a shame. I mean, out of those conversations came the complete Martian Chronicles, which I wrote an introduction to, which is a small press version that combines his screenplays of Martian Chronicles, all of his Mars stories. It's probably a pretty expensive book, but a wonderful book, and I'm glad that I was part of the gestation of that. Let's see what are some of the other questions. Great to see you again on live. Thanks, and whole brain emulation via vitrification. Yes. Opens up the question: how many parts do you have to change to be still original? I think you have to change. I think the main part you have to keep is the brain. I think that's the important one. I mean, Elaine, my wife, just had shoulder replacement, so she's got two metal shoulders and she's got a knee replacement, and we're joking that eventually she'll be all metal. But she's still her. And totally, and works better than ever, and is pain, and doesn't have pain where she used to have pain in certain parts. So I'm all in favor of all of that. Do you agree with the power of a catchphrase used in a film? Is there one you like in the Space Command series? And Daly asks. Yes, catchphrases are fun, but often they're, it's like, you got to be fucking kidding. From The Thing is great. I mean, these every now and then there's a catchphrase that really is perfect. In Space Command, it varies. I mean, there are individual lines that I like. I mean, for instance, there's a line that Elaine wrote that she gave to Anson Kemmer in the first 2 hours of Space Command, which is, what is it? Soft. Let's see. Soft men make soft choices. Something like that. And it's. I think that's a really cool line. And you know, and I've got a great joke about Detroit in the first 2 hours, which is very fun. Always gets a laugh. Let's see. But so yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of juicy phrases in everything that I tend to write, and it's fun when you see them well delivered. I mean, Robert Picardo, Doug Jones. I mean, all of our actors are so good at knowing how to deliver something so it really lands. Let's see what else. Yeah, the transporter question of, is that a copy of you when you arrive? Yes. And it's very funny. One thing that I find still very problematical about Star Trek: The Motion Picture, it's they have a scene where they have a transporter malfunction and these people beam up and they're all distorted and screaming, and then they beam down and it's like, did you get them? It's yes, but fortunately it didn't live long. It was only a second ago. Fortunately it didn't live long. And then McCoy beams up and he's complaining about how dangerous transporters are, and they're laughing at him. And it's like, oh, that funny, crusty old Bones with his old-fashioned opinions. Well, like, you can have one scene or the other, but not both. Because like he's right. If these people were just totally deformed and killed, it's like, it's like if you saw a head-on collision and everyone died bloodily, and then someone goes, well, I don't know about cars, they're pretty dangerous, and you're going, oh, you're so old-fashioned thinking cars are dangerous. Well, no, you're right. Okay, so anyway, I digress. Let's see. Thank you for the birthday wishes from my mom. George Washington says, why is most writing on TV so bad these days? It seems to have progressively worsened since 2012 or so. You know, here's why, I think. And there are some good shows. I just watched the Chinese version of Three Body Problem, and you can find it on YouTube, which is my favorite network. It's a 30-episode show, subtitled into English. I thought it was great. I really loved it. And I'm sure the Netflix one will be very, very different, but you can find that. Um, I think there's so many moving parts on a TV show or a movie that it takes so many people to do their job well, particularly the director, particularly the writers. Um, you really have to know what you're doing, and you have to sort of know where you're going, or at least have some inkling as to where you're going. I think a lot of the TV shows are sort of flying blind or flying by the seat of their pants, and they're flailing, and they don't know what they're doing, and it's just like putting a 3-year-old behind the wheel of a car or something. But uh, but every now and then something comes up that's really great, so it's like it's up to all of us to kind of keep an eye out and praise what's good, and try and not waste our time with stuff that's clearly not good. It's hard. I mean, for me, Star Trek is the really hard one because I keep hoping and praying that there'll be a great episode of the new Star Trek series. And some people love Strange New Worlds, and more power to them. I mean, people say the Discovery got better. I mean, I just get to a point where I just say I can't anymore. But and the Orville, I watched the first season. I'm going to be watching the other seasons, but again, I'm kind of busy lately. But I think the Orville is better. Let's see. Though I think that stealing that blob creature from the Mucinex commercials and making it a character is like, really? Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I've seen Foundation on Apple. I just don't. I don't. Who am I supposed to like? Who am I supposed to care about? I don't know. It seems very ornate, and it just, again, I don't know. It doesn't. It hasn't grabbed me. Let's see what else. For the Love of Mike, I don't know that one, so I'll have to check it out. Thanks, Adam. One of my favorites, says Anne, is non-taction contact. Okay, I'll check that out too. There's over 500 scripted comedy and drama series on the air, and that's a lot. And so you can't watch all of it. But let's see here. Destiny Captain says Robert Meyer Burnett seems to think the modern writing problem lies in the idea that modern writers are raised on TV, whereas past writers were raised on books. I would say an alternative of that. I think there is a problem that writers now were just watching TV shows and movies, and they haven't had direct experience. As I said earlier, the guys who did created television in the '60s, they'd been through World War II. I mean, Rod Serling had to jump out of an airplane into a jungle filled with people trying to kill him. I have there in his scrapbook, his personal scrapbook, there was a photo of him in the war holding a human skull in the jungle. That's what his day to day was like, and that deepens someone. The more you have personal experience, the more you've seen the world and experienced the variety of it, the better. And I think a lot of people feel that it's okay just to, you know, take all of this, things they've seen on TV and movies and just kind of jumble it up and spit it out, and it's, good enough is good enough. Well, for me, good enough is never good enough, and I have to say, for me, and I learned this lesson from Harlan Ellison, is it has to be something you've never seen before, and it has to be a truth from your heart. City on the Edge of Forever certainly was that, and it really speaks to the power of the television medium and the power of the television system, that it came out as such a great episode, even though it went through a number of hands on the show, a number of writers, because the heart of that still remains. And I personally think that the aired version is better than what Harlan wrote, because in Harlan's version, Kirk, basically, wants to have Edith Keeler survive, and he's stopped by Spock. Whereas it's much more powerful when he falls in love with her, and Kirk is the one who stops McCoy from saving her. It's powerful, it's tragic and wonderful. So okay, so hello guys. I missed the lockdown roundtables. Can you take us on a live one someday? Just hang some clothes from a monitor and pop us in a seat at the end of the table. That's funny. That's a very funny idea. We'll have to do that. Okay, great. So yes, I will endeavor to do that. And it's very funny. I once did an art piece. I was an art student at UCLA. I had art gallery shows when I was a teenager, and one of the pieces I did was I took a styrofoam head and I put a screen on the front of it, cut out the face, put a screen on it, and then projected from the back. I had a movie projector, and it started with my face. I sculpted, in paper mache hair, and painted it flesh color, and so it would start with my face. It was a self-portrait, and I would start with a movie of my face, and then it would go to all these things that I was thinking about, all like a collage of a video collage of what I was thinking about, and then it would go back to my face. And so it was pretty funny. It was pretty fun, and fun to do. But that was the old days where you'd have to do Super 8, and have like a little cassette recorder playing the music, because there was, they were just starting video back when I was in college, where I did have a class where we did black and white video pieces, but the machines were so screwed up. I have no idea, even if I found those tapes, if they could be played, because the heads were so misaligned. But someday I probably should try and track those tapes down and see if they can be viewed. It would really be interesting, So let's see what other comments we have here. Yeah, if you want a good laugh, watch Star Trek Lower Decks. Yes, I've heard that, and I should catch up with it. It's just again, what usually in the evening. Elaine and I, we'll stop at night, and my work schedule is I work 5 days a week minimally. And then usually stop in the evening, and Elaine and I will kick back and have a meal and maybe watch a movie or a TV show. We try to take at least one day off on the weekends, two if we can. When we're, obviously when we're in production, the days are longer. But I try and, pace myself for the long haul rather than the sprint. But when we relax, we just, watch whatever kind of interests us. And, so I'm not going to be a completist ever with, there's just too much content to be able to watch it all and have an opinion. And unlike most critics, I don't have an opinion if I don't know what I'm talking about. I have to watch the movie or TV show. So many people, particularly in this age of the internet, they'll have opinions about all sorts of stuff with no knowledge. Well, have you watched the thing? No. Well, then shut up. I mean, if you watch it and don't like it, that's one thing. But if you haven't watched it, well, I heard blah blah blah. Well, then fine. Let them have their opinions if they've seen it, but don't you spout off. It always bugs me when people comment in the comment section based on the title of one of my videos without having watched it. It's like I'll say something like, for instance, I might say, "Killers of the Flower Moon, the greatest movie ever made." It's a question mark. It's like, no, I'm not saying it's the greatest movie ever made. It's just, it's a joke. It's, or yeah, particularly if it's a really bad movie, I'll say that. But so yeah, there's that. So, any favorite old sci-fi movies you recommend? Circa 1950s, yes. Also, where am I from? I speak so quickly. Sorry about that. I'll slow down. Comes from enthusiasm and habit. Um, let's see. There's a lot of great science fiction movies of the 50s and a lot of great movies of the 50s. Night of the Hunter, the one movie directed by Charles Laughton, is a masterpiece. So if you've never seen that, check it out. Brilliant. Stars Robert Mitchum, and it's sort of like the dark side of To Kill a Mockingbird. And I mean, if To Kill a Mockingbird has its dark side too, but this is even darker. But brilliant. By the way, one thing that no one ever mentions about To Kill a Mockingbird, the movie and the book, is, Atticus is always presented as this ideal father figure and this wonderful, loving parent and this wise man, except he fails at every single thing he does in that movie. He doesn't get his client, who's not guilty. He doesn't get him off the hook. He doesn't save his life. His client ends up shot. Cover yours if these are spoilers. And his kids, there's danger encroaching. And he says, "Oh, nothing's going to happen. No, that guy's just spouting off." And then the guy tries to kill his kids. You know, so this guy is totally ineffective, and heroic, yes, but totally ineffective. I mean, thank God there's a neurotic, pale kid who lives next door who's like some pervy guy watching those two children, because he's the one who saves them and saves the day. Thank God for Robert Duvall. Anyway, I'm joking, of course. It's a great movie, great novel, one of my favorites. In terms of science fiction movies from the 50s, I can absolutely recommend the original version of Day the Earth Stood Still. It's brilliant, directed by Robert Wise, who also directed Star Trek: The Motion Picture and The Andromeda Strain and West Side Story, many other films. Also, Forbidden Planet from the 50s, great film, really one of the precursors to Star Trek. There's a lot, Them is good. The Thing, the one from the 50s, is good, though the John Carpenter version is better. What else? What else? I love Curse of the Demon, which is also called Night of the Demon. It's a movie starring Dana Andrews. I love the Quatermass films, based on a TV show from England, written by Nigel Neal. What else do I like? This Island Earth is really great fun. One of the funny things about This Island Earth is there's these creatures called mutants, and they've got these claws, and they've got these big heads with these big brains, and they're hideous. And they made legs for them, but the legs didn't work, and they were going to be shooting. So it's like, what do we do? Well, the spaceman guy's pants, the purple pants, just put them on the alien, and so that's what they did. So and they didn't use the legs at all, and it worked fine. No one ever noticed. Let's see, what else do we have here? Where am I from? I was born in Santa Monica at St. John's Hospital, where Elaine just had her knee replaced. I grew up in West LA, in the Beverlywood section, a Jewish section of town. In fact, I thought that all white people were Jewish until I was 12, interestingly enough, because all the white people I knew were Jewish. So, but then, so basically I'm a Los Angeles kid. And fortunately, although my family weren't in show business, we were showbiz adjacent. And that's how I got to meet Nichelle Nichols and go on the Star Trek set. And in fact, my mom's car was actually used in an episode of Mannix. My mom was working as the PR director at a driving school, and they gave us a driving school car with 2 steering wheels, 2 sets of pedals. And there was an episode of Mannix, this detective series, and a blind person sees a murder, and Mannix has to convince the killer that the woman actually can see, and so they have her behind the driver's seat driving, apparently, where Mannix has put like his coat over the second steering wheel, and he's in the passenger seat actually driving, and that's, gets the killer to reveal himself. So as far as me speaking fast, I've always done that. It's a habit. Hopefully people can understand me. But if you ever need me to slow down, I'm happy to oblige. Let's see. Rich Schwartz says, I personally love movies that are so bad they're funny. Yes. But there's good, bad, and bad, bad. I mean, from one thing, I love, Tim Burton's Mars Attacks film. That's not a bad film. It's a very fun film. But again, I think a film that's bad, for it to be entertaining and not just boring, has to have a personal style. I think Ed Wood Jr., the reason his films have lasted, even though they're bad, is because he's really strange and his films are really strange. And it's that strangeness that is a style. And it works in its odd way. But yes, I have my own little list of bad movies. Volcano is one of the movies I love, with Tommy Lee Jones, where that's a great film, really fun. Let's see. Quasimodo. Yeah, Charles Laughton married the Bride of Frankenstein. That's right. Charles Laughton married Elsa Lanchester, who played the Bride of Frankenstein. She was a wonderful actress. If you've never seen her in the Night Gallery episode Green Fingers, it's a great one. It's a really great one. And Charles Laughton was in the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It was the one done in the 30s. Lon Chaney did the silent one, but Laughton was terrific in that film. And if you've never seen Charles Laughton in Island of Lost Souls, which was the first film version of Island of Dr. Moreau, check it out. It is absolutely terrific. He's brilliant in it. Andy Archer says, Mr. Sci-Fi, apart from your own film crew, what are some of your favorite sci-fi actors? Wow, God, there's so many. My gosh. Whew, who do I love? Well, the entire cast of the original Star Trek I love. They're terrific. I and you know the Boy, where to start? Sigourney Weaver, of course. The entire cast of Alien, the entire cast of Aliens, the cast of Blade Runner. All of those people. Veronica Cartwright. I love her work, from The Birds to Alien, and she's going to be in Sweet Haven. I'm very looking forward very much to working with her. She's also in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. She's just great and unforgettable. There's just so many. It's like, any of my favorite movies, I love those actors, or my favorite TV shows. Outer Limits, David McCallum was terrific. We just lost him, of course. Shatner is the greatest bad actor in the world. He's very mannered, very phony in his way, very melodramatic, but terrific. So Shatner's amazing. I finally got a photo with him. That was great because he's had such an influence on my life, and he's doing great for 91 or whatever he is. Kirk or Picard? Very interesting question. It's sort of like Kirk. I was once having lunch with, God, who was it? I think it was Lost. What's his name? The showrunner from that. Anyway, whatever his name is. And we agreed that, or I was talking about how what makes Kirk a great character are his bad qualities. He's impulsive. He's egotistical. He's narcissistic. He's a womanizer. He's very, he fires from the hip. If he sees a government, an alien government that he doesn't like, he overthrows it. He's really, it wasn't J.J. Abrams' Adam. It was Damon Lindelof. I was having lunch with. But Kirk is really an interesting character, and Shatner. That's where it's very interesting to compare the first version of Star Trek with the second, because Jeffrey Hunter. I really love Jeffrey Hunter, but he doesn't have that same quality that Kirk has. That quality of just, you just can't take your eyes off him. He's just so dynamic and charismatic, and I don't know if the first version of Star Trek would have succeeded if it had sold. The second version with Shatner almost didn't succeed. Thank God for that third season that I picketed NBC to get. Picard is a very different kind of character. It's great that after the first season, where they were kind of flopping around and not knowing what to do with him, they finally figured out who he was, and then it worked great. They're both wonderful in their ways. It's very different. It's like, do you like chocolate cake or do you like chocolate pie? Well, they both have their virtues. Andy Archer says, "What are your thoughts on the Borg? I consider them a great nemesis of an opponent." Yes, yes, I do too. And the look is terrific. Some people think that they were the look was very much inspired by the villain in Captain Power, which was the show I developed for television. Maybe, I don't know, possible. Science fiction certainly interbreeds. God knows. I thought it was very clever when they did the movie First Contact that they had the Borg Queen, because what the Borg lacked was sort of like a central adversary that our characters could talk to and interact with, and she was really wonderfully written and wonderfully performed. And and I thought that was a very clever choice. But the Borg are fun, really fun, and Seven of Nine was just great. And I love her as well. I'd love to work with her. I talked to her on the picket line, but I don't think I won her over quite yet. So if any of you are friends with Jerry Ryan, say you should work with Mark Zickery. Let's see, what else do we have here? George Washington. Are there pressures on writers in Hollywood to interweave certain narratives, agendas into scripts, LGBTP, interracial, climate change, etc.? I see it everywhere since around 2012. Well, um, some of my friends on the right get all hot and bothered over diversity and inclusivity, all of that. I of course don't. I like it. Um, okay, let me unpack this a little bit. Uh, no, the answer is no one has ever said to me, put in this issue or that subject or that race or that gender or sexuality. No, never. Um, but our world, our society has changed in the last several decades. And I think, you know, if you just think to yourself, well, maybe everybody should get an equal chance, an equal break. Maybe everyone just wants to go through their day without being screwed with, or it's like they want safety, they want success, they want everything that we all want. And I mean, they want to be able to marry the people they love. They want to be able to, have good, full lives. And I think that's fair myself. You may disagree with me. And again, thank God we have a country where we can disagree. And, but for me, climate change is real. In fact, I deal with it in the prequel to Space Command, United Planet, because it is real. Things are getting hotter, and we need to address it. We can't just close our eyes to it. We may have been wired up as monkeys in trees and have that same wiring still, but we have to look down the road a bit and kind of realize that we can undo what we have done, hopefully, or at least somewhat. In terms of inclusivity in television and film, here's my take on all of this. When I started in television in the 1970s, most of the writers were white males that I was working with. There were a few women, uh, but it was pretty much all white people as far as I can remember. Maybe a few exceptions, but then when I started Friday the 13th, the series, we were getting pictures every day, and they were all white males. And so I said to my staff, "Let's shake it up. Let's have other races. Let's have women come in." So they started to send in people of other ethnicities and so forth, and we started buying scripts from them. And we had a 22 order. 11 were going to be written by us in house, and the other 11 were freelance that we would ultimately have to rewrite to make them match the show, because we knew the show better than people who were out in the world. And but for many people, this was their first sale, and it began what were very successful careers. And it wasn't. And what I discovered was that the sexism and the racism were not deeply embedded. You just needed somebody to say, "Hey, let's do it differently," and that's what we did. And I don't regret that choice at all. I'm proud of it. And I like to cast. I grew up with Star Trek, and Star Trek had Asians and black people and you name it, and it had a gay actor in George Takei, without them knowing that. Though when I saw The Naked Time, I said, no, any guy with a physique that great, he's got to be gay. So, but and I worked with George a number of times on various things. Uh, so for myself, speaking personally, I like variety, I like diversity, I like inclusivity. Science fiction is a big tent. That's one of the things I love about it. I think that if you're doing it by rote, it's a mistake. If you're saying, "Oh well, we got to have another black guy, we got to have a Filipino," no, it's like let's invite people in, see what they can do, see who's terrific at what they do, and then reward that. So that's how I do things. Let's see. We're gonna have to end in the next couple minutes, but let's see what we have here. On a similar theme, what enemies, bad guys, girls do you consider really shine in some of your favorite movies? Oh my gosh, great villains. Holy cow. I'd have to think about that a bit. Blade Runner, of course. Rutger Hauer's terrific. The Thing. That's that's just swell. The John Carpenter one. I'll come back to you on that. That's a good question. Some of my favorite movies includes where tech goes wrong, like Dark Star in 2001. Yes, and I agree. And Dark Star is a terrific film. It led directly to Alien. We can talk about that another time. Uh, but it's so fun that I've known so many of the people who made these great films. I mean, Ron Cobb was a dear friend. He designed the ship in Dark Star, and Greg Jean, another friend of mine, built that ship. And it's incredible. I'm so honored to know these people. Let's see. I don't think the diversity and inclusion thing is either an either or proposition. I think the issue we're seeing more and more abandoning story and characterization in favor of proselytizing. I agree with that. Yes, Destiny Captain. I think the first obligation of film and TV is to entertain. I think within that, if you are entertaining people, then you can take them on a journey that might lead to an insight. But speechifying is never a great way of doing things, and Elaine and I definitely try to avoid that. Um, let's see. Yeah. Elaine just wrote down Aliens. The little corporate guy. Oh, the corporate guy. Yes. Paul Reiser in Aliens. He's terrific. He's one of the best villains ever. Wonderful job. Wonderful job. Elaine wrote it on a napkin. She's trying not to be on screen, but we'll drag her into one of these things sometime soon. Let's see. Yeah. Well, we all agree shitty writing is shitty. you know. But thank God we can choose what we want to watch and what we want to see. And so what sort of timeline does it take for you to make a script and decide on an actor? It can vary. I can write a script over a weekend, or it can take me a year. When I decide on actors, sometimes it's very easy to say, oh, that person. I often write roles for specific actors, like Doug Jones. When I met Doug, I said, I'm going to write a role for you, and we're going to see that wonderful face of yours. I knew I was going to write for Robert Picardo. I crafted the role for Mira Furlan. So with an actor who's very distinctive, I'll ultimately often write the role with them in mind. I've done that often with Armin Shimmerman. But other times, like when we had the Space Command talent search, it was difficult to find the right actor. And finally, we got Ethan McDowell, and also cast, Sarah Marafino and Brian McClure and Aaron Gaffey in various roles from that talent search. And I'm very, very glad we did. And then sometimes you don't find the perfect actor, but you cast sort of the best you can get and then work with them so they can become what you need. And we're very glad when we can collaborate to make something really shine, and we have done that. So I think it's now 1 o'clock. So I've been talking for an hour. So I think we'll say adieu for now. But just to let you know, I'll be doing these live streams probably every couple days, and throughout the campaign, the Kickstarter campaign. Please go to the Kickstarter campaign. Please pledge if we can get. I really want to hit 20,000 the next day or two. I don't want to pull the plug on this campaign. That would be a real setback. So please spread the word. Tell your friends. If you have an aunt who is leaving you a bequest, throw it our way. But thanks all of you for being here. Tell people that I'm doing these live streams. I'm happy to answer questions, not just about science fiction, but about anything relating to how to have a career in Hollywood, how to stay married for 46 years, which we've done happily. And I've been with Elaine for 48 years. So that's just, thank God, she's the best part of every day. And that's about it for now, guys. So thank you very much. We'll talk soon. And I'm so glad that we're all part of this wonderful science fiction community. Take care. Bye, guys.